Hi, everyone. I am so excited we're gathered here together again today. I just want to talk to you about the next steps of what we're going to be doing collectively as a staff. And that is going to be we are going to be focusing on our curriculum and our instructional practices. So, where are we going from here? We have completed some of the most important foundational work of our PLCs up to this point. We have created our mission statements. We've looked at our vision. We've talked about our values and we've created our goal statements. And that has provided the foundation for our PLC work. And now we are able to move on to the next phase, which is the development of the curriculum. We've determined why we exist. Now we're going to transition into how are we going to reach the goal of learning for all. Remember that we are in the business of learning. We are in the business of providing education to our students. So how are we going to meet that goal of learning for each and every one of our students? The next step in this process is going to be we're going to be creating a guaranteed and viable curriculum. Robert Marzano is someone that is really does a lot of extensive work in the development of curriculum, and here's just a quote from him that I thought was really important. It says, "A guaranteed and viable curriculum. I rank this as the first factor having the most impact on student achievement." So the highest impact on the likelihood of student achievement is having a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So, what does that mean? A curriculum is guaranteed when it means that every student is provided the opportunity to learn a core curriculum that provides them with the probability of success in school. Look at that first word. It says every. Every student is provided the opportunity. So we need to make sure that all of our students in our buildings are given equal access to the same strong curriculum as their peers. In order for it to be a viable curriculum, this means that we need to make sure that the time we have available is protected and it's enough for the students to be able to learn this curriculum. So we can have great curriculum if we don't have the amount of time to get through it, or if it's not structured in the correct daily lesson plans, our students aren't going to be able to access it and therefore it's not viable. So we need to be guaranteed that all students have access to it and we have to have it viable, which means we need to have enough time where all students are going to be able to have access and meet those learning targets that we'll talk about. Consistency in guaranteed and viable curriculum is consistency really is the key. This means that we need to ensure all students are given access to the same curriculum, regardless of which teacher they have for the course. We're in a large building. We have 1,300 students. That means there are multiple sections of each of our core classes. And that means that there's different teachers teaching the same course. We need to make sure that all students, regardless of what classroom they're in, is given the access to the same curriculum. This is going to take a collaborative effort. We need all those people teaching those courses to be working together about what is being taught. No longer are we going to be in silos, but we're going to be working together about if a student's in a world history class, they're going to have the same curriculum, whether they have Mrs. Johnson or Mrs. Peterson. We need to have collective commitments. We need to be committed to this work together. We need to be on the same page and ensuring that our students are getting access to the same things, regardless of what classroom they're in. And we're going to use our PLCs as the foundation for the development of this curriculum. People always ask me, when are we supposed to do this? How are we supposed to do this? That is why we have a PLC, is because your PLC groups are going to be working on the establishment of this guaranteed and viable curriculum. So, what are the necessary components of such a curriculum? Our PLCs are going to have to work together to work through the process of developing this curriculum. We're going to need to look at standards. We're going to need to look at state and national standards as well as Common Core standards. And we're going to also need to look at assessment data. So we're going to need to look at things like the ACT Aspire, and then other national assessments that we might use in particular core areas. We're going to need to dig deep into that data and see what our students are learning, maybe what gaps there are, and that will help us focus our work on what's going to be the essential standards in our course. We will utilize all of this information to help build a foundation for our roadmap of how to move forward in the development of this curriculum. So, what's the process going to look like? Everybody says, how are we going to do this? During our next staff meeting, each PLC is going to meet together to work to start determining the essential standards for their course. So if I'm in the biology PLC, I'm working with those individuals and we are trying to determine what are the most essential standards that need to be taught in that course. We're going to clarify which are the highest priority. We know that there is a ton of information that we want to cover in our courses, but we're going to really need to break down and determine what's nice to know and what our students absolutely need to know. And then we're going to start building our curriculum framework. And within that, we're gonna do what's called creating shared learning targets. Some of you may have heard of that term before, but it's a really critical component to the development of a good curriculum. What's a learning target? It answers the question from the student perspective of what should I be able to know and do. If I'm the only one responsible for the teaching of the students, there's no student ownership. We have students sitting in classrooms every day that I have no idea what we're doing. I have no idea what we're learning or why we're learning this. This transfers that ownership over to those students to give them the focus of what they're supposed to be doing. They're concrete goals written in student-centered language. If I just take a Common Core or state national standard and slap it up on the board and say, this is what we're trying to do today, do students understand what that is? Not necessarily. So we need to take that and break it down into real specific goals that our students are trying to meet, but written in student-centered language. It always should begin with I can, I am able to, I will. What will I be able to do at the end of the class? So the objectives for the teacher are I'm going to teach this today. And the objectives for the learning targets are for the students, which means I'm going to learn this today. So how are we going to develop these learning targets? It's a learning target is designed to be a lesson sized, a classroom, one class period amount of learning. What are we supposed to be able to know and master by the end of the period? So if it's a huge concept, obviously that's not a learning target. Maybe today I'm going to learn how to solve the Pythagorean theorem. Those math teachers, I'm going to be able to learn all the components and how to solve the Pythagorean theorem by the end of the hour. That is my learning target. It needs to be in student-centered language. So I'm going to ask you when you're creating the learning targets, consider these following questions. What will I be able to do when I finish this lesson? What idea, topic, or subject is important for me to learn and understand so that I can do this? And how will I show that I can do this? And how well will I have to do it? So this brings it back to the student focus, the student-centered lens of what should I be able to know and do by the end of the hour. That is the creation of a learning target. This whole development of a guaranteed and viable curriculum, including the creation of learning targets, is going to really need to be an intentional process. It's going to take time. We understand that we don't just make this happen overnight. It's going to require a lot of collective time and effort amongst your PLCs and the groups that you're in, and to develop this. This work is going to be led by our instructional coaches and our curriculum director. Your departments / PLCs, mostly PLCs, are going to be utilizing half and full day pullouts, meaning we are going to get subs for your classes. So your entire PLC will be able to work with the instructional coaches for half a day or a full day, just developing, number one, the essential standards for the course, the learning targets, to ensure that we have that consistent curriculum being delivered in all of our classrooms. We're going to continue to work, like I said, on unpacking the essential standards and creating those learning targets during that time together. Remember, our end goal is that we want to ensure that all students are getting the same educational opportunities as their peers. So if I am in Mr. Wolf's chemistry class, I'm getting the same curriculum as if I am in Mrs. Pappas's chemistry class. That does not mean that there's not room for individuality in teaching styles or lesson delivery, but the same essential standards and the same learning targets are being utilized in both of those classrooms. We're going to house this work on our curriculum maps, which is going to be a living document. This is not something that should be made, thrown in a drawer, and never looked at again. No, this is a living document that we're consistently looking at, reviewing, analyzing, modifying as we see fit throughout our time working together. It's going to be housed in the district shared Google Drive, which everyone has access to, under the curriculum and assessment folders. And then each building will have their own folder within that area. And then in the high school folder, there will be folders for each PLC for them to house the curriculum map that we are working on and developing. We're going to continue to work together to strengthen that curriculum. And all of this work is going to be reviewed and supported by the instructional coaches. Just to remember that the intention of this is enhancing the already great work that is happening in this building. We just want to pull it together for the consistency for our students. I just want to leave you with this quote, something that I thought was it just struck me when I read this. It says, "Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire." We are not just trying to give our students information, but we are trying to give them the skills and the ability to light a fire in themselves for the desire for learning. So no matter where they are or what they're doing, they're going to have the skills and the abilities to know how to access learning. I really appreciate everyone's time today. I'm really excited about this work that we're going to do together. Like I said, we're going to take the already amazing work that is happening in this building and we're going to pull it together and we're going to just strengthen our curriculum and better meet the needs of our students and families. So I look forward to seeing you at our next staff meeting when we start this work together. Have a great day, everyone.